In this video, I'm going to continue with the construction of a video game called Seawolf. And if you haven't already finished the video called Seawolf 1, please go and watch that first and complete it. And then you should have saved Seawolf 1, and then you should have saved it a second time as Seawolf 2. And if you did, now we're ready to begin editing. Okay. If you are beginning this after, if you finished the one in another class, you can always click on these three bars and then go open and then My Files, and then you'll see the latest files that you've worked on, and you can go find Seawolf 1 and open it up, and when you do, you will then go and say Save As Seawolf 2. After you opened up Seawolf 1, you'll go Save As Seawolf 2 and then hit Save. And it'd be great also if you could change the name of it to Seawolf 2 so that you can see it in the comments. Okay, if you are caught up to me, let's continue. The next thing we're going to do, we already made it so that we could move our player to the left and right. And if we hit the space key, we can now launch a torpedo that we can guide to the left and the right while we're guiding the player. The other thing we'd like to do is we'd like to be able to have the enemy move across the screen on its own, and we'd like to be able to see if we could then hit the enemy. So what we're going to do is we're going to create, and by the way, I don't know that I'm doing this in the perfect order, but I'm going to do it in an order, and I'm going to try to make things work the best I can. I don't know the best order to convey this because I've got to add code in the middle and up and below, so just follow along as best you can. And call me over if you get stuck. Anyways, let's see here. So we're gonna define a new helper function called move enemy, of course. And I can't think of any parameters that I would need. So right now I'm just gonna leave no parameters. And I'm gonna go ahead and hit the enter key a few times so that the code is more towards the top of the screen. I think that's a little bit easier for you to see when you're watching the tutorial. And then I'll just scroll back up as necessary to show you the other code. Okay, so anyways, let's go and let's make this move enemy code. And in the move enemy code, what I'm thinking is I would like to make it so that the enemy dot center X, I would like to increase it by some amount. Let's call it 5, and then I think that's kind of mostly it. But now the thing is, I have to be able to call the move enemy code. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's think about this. There's a couple of ways I could do it. I could go and put the move enemy code down here, and then just have the onstep function run it over and over again. Let's give it a try. I think you'll see it works kind of nicely. There we go. So now I've actually got stuff that's kind of working. For whatever reason, maybe we'll find out why later, why I'm doing this. I'm going to try to do this in a slightly different way. What I'm going to do is I would like to make a special property for the enemy, and I'm going to call it enemy.move. That is a custom property. There is CMU does not use a move property as a keyword anywhere else, so we can make this up. And I'm going to say enemy.move is let's see here. At the very beginning, as soon as this thing starts, I'd like for the enemy to begin to move. Now, at some point in the future, we could use this to make it so that the enemy does not begin to move until we press a start button. But for now, we're just going to make it so the enemy moves right from the beginning. And what we're going to do is over here in the move enemy function, we're going to check to see if enemy.move is equal to true. Okay, and if so, then we'll move the enemy. And again, I'll remind you that up here, if we look at our code, we initially set enemy.move to true. And eventually we'll set it to false, and you'll see why. And maybe then I can give you some insight as to why we're doing things this way instead of simply putting the move enemy code down in onstep. Okay, so let's take a look here. So silly me, we are going to put move enemy in onstep. Okay. Let's see here. Move enemy. That'll call the code. But there is still really good reasons why we want to use this enemy move custom property, because we want to be able to start and stop the moving of the enemy. And so regardless of whether we, well, anyways, I'm just going to leave it at this for now. This is one way of getting the job done. Okay, so let's see here. I believe this is now going to work. Let's go ahead and hit run. Move the player back and forth. Hit the space bar. Now, what we'd like to do next is we'd like to be able to detect and see if our torpedo hits the enemy. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use a command that came from Unit 4. In Unit 4, Lesson 434, there is Shape Methods 2. That's a lesson. And it gives you several different ways to detect whether a shape is hitting another shape, or whether your mouse is hitting a shape, or whether your shape is hitting a certain point. Anyways, we're going to check to see if torpedo dot hits shape. Notice that there's a lowercase s and then an uppercase s. And then enemy. We're going to check to see if the torpedo hits enemy. And if it does, then we want to do a few things. One thing we'd like to do is we'd like to make the torpedo, we'd like to make it so it's no longer visible. Torpedo visible equals false. Let's see, what else? We'd like to make sure, let me see what else. Oh, enemy dot visible will be equal to false. When the torpedo hits the enemy, it should go away. What else? Enemy dot move should be equal to false. In other words, we don't want the enemy to keep moving. We don't want the enemy ship to keep going after we hit it. So that's one reason why we use this enemy move custom property. Let's see what else. We would like to reset. Now, there's a couple of other things that I have choices about either doing here or in another helper function. I'm thinking we're going to reset the position of the enemy, although I could do that in a function that I'm going to call restart. So I think I'm going to make a helper function, and I'm going to call this restart, 2 parentheses, no parameters. And one of the things I'm going to do in restart is I am going to, let's see here, I'm going to reset the enemy dot center x equal to, let me think about this. I think I want it to be all the way to the left like it was at the start, so equal to 0. And what else? Maybe we can announce that the torpedo got hit. But I think I'm going to do that back down here. I don't know that I want that to be in my restart. So we will say announce dot visible equals true. And we have not yet created a label called announce, so let's do that. So we're going to make a new label, and announce equals label. And we're just going to put you struck the enemy. Yay, good job. And we'll put that for now right in the center of the screen. And we'll give it a size so that it's nice and big. Okay, I think we've got some pretty good stuff going, but let's test out the code and we'll fix it up if there's anything that's wrong. I'm going to go ahead and hit run. And right off the bat, I see a little bit of a problem. Let's see here. If torpedo hits, let's see, announce, I know. We down here we set announce.visible true. Up here when we first create the label, let's set visible equals false, so that it doesn't show up. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit run and then move the player and hit the space. Look at that. I got the torpedo to hit the enemy, and they both went away, and it said you struck the enemy. Yay! Pretty exciting stuff. I think it would be kind of fun also to make it so that when it hits the enemy, that it looks like the enemy blew up. So we're going to go ahead and create another shape, or another image for the screen, and we're going to make a little space here. We're going to call it explode. And these explosions could be much fancier than what I'm going to do, but I'm just going to make it a star. And I'm going to initially set the position to 0. Honestly, I'm just going to set the initial position to wherever the enemy is. So enemy.center X will be the X position for the center of the star initially. And then enemy dot center Y will be the Y position of the explosion because it's the same as the enemy. And then what else? We want to do, let's make it so the radius of this star is big, 75, and we'll make it so that it has lots of points. So we'll make it 36-pointed star. And then we'll color it in with a gradient. So we'll do something like, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter to go to the next line so that you guys can, so that I don't code off the screen. And I'm going to say fill equals gradient. And then I'm going to start with white, and then comma, and then yellow, and then comma, and then red. Now, you may have different preferences for what you want your explosion to look like, but I think that's going to be pretty good. And now what we're the other thing is initially it should be visible false. So between those last two parentheses there, I'm going to put a comma, and then visible equals false. There we go. So that explosion won't appear initially. What we do want to do, though, is we would like it when we're moving the enemy to also move the explosion. So we're going to say down here under move enemy, we're going to say enemy dot center X. I'm sorry, explode dot center X equal to explode dot to enemy dot center X. So what we're doing here is just making sure that the explosion follows the enemy, even though the explosion may not be visible. So it'll always be where the enemy is. Okay, what else? Let's see here. I guess if we're going to do a restart, maybe we should also make the explode again follow the wherever the enemy is. Center X. Okay. And what else? If we're going to do a restart, we probably want the explosion. Well, actually, as soon as the torpedo hits the shape, I think we want the explosion to be turned off. So I'm going to say explode. Oh, wait. Duh. When the torpedo hits the enemy, that's when we want to see the explosion. So here, when the torpedo hits the enemy, we say explode dot visible equals true. There we go. So initially the explode dot visible is false, but when the torpedo hits the enemy, we want it to be true. And I think that's most of it. I have a feeling there's probably a few things I left out. Let's go ahead and hit run and see how it works. I'm going to hit run. I'm going to move the guy, hit space. Ooh, that was kind of a nice effect. I'm going to go hit run again. Ooh, I am liking this. Wow. I'm going to try to miss the enemy and see what happens. Here we go. Let's try hitting run again. Okay, so nothing happens. Okay, let's hit run again, and then I'm going to try to hit. I'm kind of liking that. I hope you are too. Now, I know that there's a lot more fancy things that we could do, like we could certainly add a score. And the other thing I'd like to do is I'd like to make it so I don't have to keep hitting run again to restart, because I'm having so much fun with this. I want to be able to play it again and again and again, and maybe your users will also. So anyways, but I do think this is a pretty good point to stop making Seawolf 2. We're about 14 minutes into the video, and we've accomplished an awful lot. I don't know that the code that I've written is perfect. There's probably a few more things I could have done, but it seems to be functioning the way I'd like. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see here. It's already saved as Seawolf 2. It's already automatically been saved there. I'm going to go ahead and save it again, and you should too. Save as, let's call it Seawolf 3. Now, what that does when I hit save as Seawolf 3, that means that we are no longer, when we update the code, we no longer will be updating the code for Seawolf 2. So what I'm hoping is right now you have perfectly preserved code for Seawolf 1 and Seawolf 2. And if for some reason you couldn't get Seawolf 3 to work perfectly, you can always go back and revisit Seawolf 1 or 2 and pick up from where you left off there. I'm just trying to find good stopping points for the next version of the code that we're writing, and hopefully this is a good one. To me, this feels like a good stopping point because we actually made something that already feels like a game, and maybe we'll just add a couple details to it. All right, that's all I got for now. Don't forget, after you're done, make sure that you call me over and you show me your result so that I can see that you watched the video and that you wrote the code. And that way I can give you credit for actually participating in this course. Okay, so let me go ahead and stop the video.